Hey guys, it's Fowler and Piper, and we're here today for your daily lesson on trigonometry. So, the past 2 days you guys have been working, well, past 3 days I should say, you've been working with trig ratios and solving for sides. Today we're going to solve for angles, which is actually really easy. I think you guys will like it. So, we're going to review some stuff first and then add some new things in. Okay, so here we are. All right, I have a blank sheet of paper today, and you guys will probably want a blank sheet of paper as well, pencil, and then some sort of calculator. It could be your Desmos calculator, or it could be a regular calculator, or even your cell phone calculator. I'm gonna pull up the Desmos calculator. Desmos.com, enter. We're not using the graphing calculator on here. We're going to use their scientific calculator today. And look, it's gigantic. Lots of buttons. So, from yesterday, let's go ahead and draw a right triangle. Recap. Make sure we have a right angle in there. Okay, so we're going to do, how's about this? X 18 and 30 degrees. So here is our triangle. That is a 30 degrees, not a 330 degrees. X and 18. Okay, so we are going to set up and solve for X here. Now, X is which part of our triangle? Is it our hypotenuse? Is it our adjacent? Or is it the opposite? Okay, what do you think? Yep, it's across from the right angle. That's the hypotenuse. Okay, and then our angle here is right there. 18, is that going to be the opposite or adjacent? Well, it's touching the angle, that side is, so it is the adjacent. Okay, so to decide what trig function we're going to use, we're going to think about our some old hippie saying. So some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on applesauce. Whoa, my brain's going to mush already. Okay, so we've got the hypotenuse and we've got the adjacent. So that's an H and an A, so we're going to use cosine. So how we set it up, cosine of 30 degrees equals adjacent, which is 18 over X. So, is X on the top or the bottom of our fraction? It's the bottom, so we are going to cross multiply and solve. So 1 times 18 is 18. We've got X times our cosine 30 degrees. So because it's being multiplied, to get rid of our cosine 30, we're going to do the inverse operation, which is divide by cosine of 30. So those cancel out, and we type this into the calculator. So I'm going to type it in over here on my Desmos. We've got 18 divided by cosine of 30 degrees. So 18 divided by cosine 30 degrees. We're going to check. We're in degree mode, so we're good. And our answer is right over here at 20.78. And let's just see if that makes sense. It's going to be the hypotenuse, so it's got to be the longest side. Is that longer than the side we have? Yes, it is. So that is correct. It makes sense. Okay, let's do one more. Let's do this one. We'll draw a new triangle over on this side. And we've got 21 yards. We've got 35 degrees. And we're gonna look for x right there. Okay, so first things first, we gotta decide if we've got a hypotenuse, an adjacent, or an opposite here when we label our things. So let's check for hypotenuse first. It's across from the right angle, that's the hypotenuse. There's no number or letter there, so we're not gonna use him. The adjacent's next, so looking at my angle, adjacent's the side touching it that's not the hypotenuse. That's gonna be our 21 yards. So I'm gonna label ADJ for adjacent. And then the side not touching our angle is the opposite. So we've got x is the opposite. So which trig function deals with adjacent and opposite? Sine, cosine, or tangent? That's right, it's tangent. So tan of our angle, 35 degrees, equals the opposite over the adjacent. So x over 21. All right, is x on top or bottom? It's on the top of our fraction, so all we're gonna do is the inverse operation of dividing, which is multiply by 21. Okay, so we're gonna type in 21 times tan of 35 into our calculator. So I got the decimals over here. 21 times, ooh, that's 121. 21 times tan. Wow, I cannot type today. 21 times tan of 35. Close parenthesis. So it looks exactly how it's supposed to be, and our answer is 14.7. Okay. A little recap of yesterday. So identify your angle, label what you got, either your hypotenuse, adjacent, or opposite, and then decide which trig function to use. So today we're going to be using our inverse operations to solve for angles this time. So we're going to have some triangles. We're going to have two sides and a missing angle, and we've got to decide what to do. So we're going to go ahead and draw another right triangle. Okay, we're going to label our hypotenuse 20.78, and we're going to label this side here 18. And we want to know what angle x is. Degrees. Okay, so same thing here. We identify our angle. We're going to label what we know. So we're going to look for hypotenuse, adjacent, and opposite. So first things first, check for hypotenuse. So opposite our right angle, it points to it. There's our hype. Okay, check the adjacent next. So it's touching our angle and it's not the hypotenuse. So that'd be this one. And then the opposite is the one not touching. There's nothing there. So we are good to start. So which trig function deals with hypotenuse and adjacent? Some old hippie caught another hippie right there, cosine. So we'll set our problem up the same way. Cosine of our angle, we're gonna put the x in there for the angle because that's what we got, equals our adjacent over our hypotenuse. Okay, so here's what we got. Now, when we solve, we use our inverse operations. So, opposite of addition is subtraction. Opposite of multiplication is division. Well, the opposite of a cosine is called an inverse cosine. It looks like that. Inverse cosine. So we are going to do that to both sides. Okay, an inverse, okay, and its original, they undo each other. So the cosine inverse and cosine cancel each other out, so you're left with just x. Okay, this right here, our inverse cosine of our trig ratio, that 18 over 20.78. We could type that in the calculator and we will get an answer. So here's what we're going to do. We're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna show you on my calculator first how to do this. Okay, turn it on. We're gonna check, I'll clear this out. Check your mode, make sure we're in degrees, because we're dealing with degrees, we want our answer in degrees. Okay, so anytime we do the inverse on things like the square and the square root, the plus and the minus, things like that, there's a way to do it. If you see here above sine, there's a sine with a -1, cosine -1, and tan -1. Those are inverse sine, inverse cosine, and inverse tangent. So we can type in our inverse cosine on this calculator by hitting, let's see, to make it blue, that second button, and cosine. And then we do our 18 divided by 20.78. Just like that in the calculator, and hit enter. And this right here, that 29.97 is our answer. That's our degree measure. Okay, so we just type this guy into the calculator. Now we're gonna try it on over here. So, clear, 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 clear. Okay, if you hit the function, so we're at the main. If you hit the functions, we can do our inverse cosine. And then go back to our main keys and type in our 18 divided by 20.78. And it gives us that same exact number. What? Now I want you guys to notice between this problem and this problem. I drew the same triangle, okay? I just put in the side length we got here for this one. And then the 30-degree angle, well, that's very, very close to 30 degree. It's only 2/100ths off because we rounded that answer, okay? So it worked to find the angle measure very, very closely. Okay, let's do another problem. So I'm drawing my new right angle. I'm gonna put that as X. Let's say we've got 40 and 22. Okay, so we'll still identify our angle we're looking for, our X degrees. We're gonna see if we have the hypotenuse, the adjacent, or the opposite. So hypotenuse first. It's always opposite our right angle. So 40 is our hypotenuse, okay? The adjacent is the other side touching our angle. This one's the adjacent, and we do not have anything there, so we're not gonna label it. And that means our last side is the opposite. So we're gonna look for opposite and hypotenuse. Okay? So which trig function, our sine, cosine, and tangent, deals with opposite and hypotenuse? That would be our some old hippie. So sine of our angle equals our opposite over the hypotenuse. Okay, to undo this sign, we're gonna take that inverse sine of our fraction. And this is what we're gonna type in. So over here, gonna erase that all. I'm gonna go to our functions, and I'm gonna choose inverse sine. of 22, 22 divided by 40. So it looks like that, just what we wrote on our paper. And we're gonna find that it is 33.37 degrees. Okay, let's go ahead and do another one together. Okay, let's go and draw our triangle this way. And we've got 15, let's go 12. And 11. And let's solve for this angle right here. So you guys tried this one. We want to label hypotenuse, adjacent, or opposite, whatever we're given, and try and figure out your trig ratio. So go ahead and pause it here. Try this one on your own. Okay, so let's see. There's my angle. This is opposite of our right angle, so it's the hypotenuse. And this one is the opposite because it's not touching our angle. So you guys should have chosen sine of x equals 11 over 12. And then we're just going to take the inverse sine of our ratio. And that's what we're going to type in. So inverse sine of 11 over 12. So over here, inverse sine of 11 over 12 gives us an angle of 66.44 degrees. Okay, one more example with me, and then we're done. So let's draw a triangle. Let's go x degrees there, 5 and let's go 13. And the right angle's there. So angle. Identify our hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is right here because that's across my right angle. Then the adjacent is touching our angle, so that would be the 5. And 13 is our opposite. So trig ratio that deals with an adjacent and an opposite. Some old hippie, no hippie here, caught another hippie, no hippie here, tripping on applesauce. That's the one we want to use, so we're going to use the tan. So tan of x equals our opposite over the adjacent. So to undo our tan function, our x is going to equal the inverse tan of 13 over 5. And that's what we're going to type in. Okay, so inverse tan of 13 divided by 5 is 68.96 degrees. All right, so that's all you gotta do. Identify your angle, label what you got, decide what trig function based on what you got, and then take the inverse of that trig function, and you'll have your degree. Okay, please comment on the comments below when you have finished this and your exit ticket, so I know that you're done. Just say done, that's it. And then you guys will have an IXL to practice this today. And that's it. All right, bye guys, see ya next week.